There's a moment in every woman's life when she stops playing it safe. For some, it's a new haircut. For others, it's quitting a soul-crushing job. For Diana Hayes, it was walking into Club Vermilion on a Tuesday night and letting her best friend dare her to kiss the most dangerous man in the room. 5 seconds. That's all it took to dismantle a carefully constructed life. 5 seconds of lips pressed against a stranger's mouth, tasting aged scotch and something darker, something that felt like a warning she was too drunk on freedom to recognize. When she pulled back, expecting shock or maybe disgust, she found something far more terrifying. Recognition. Like he'd been waiting for her. Like she'd just confirmed something he'd suspected all along. His name was Minute Jun-ho. And in the Korean underworld of Los Angeles, his name was a sentence you didn't want attached to yours. But Diana didn't know that yet. She was too busy celebrating her liberation from a marriage that had slowly been erasing her, one compromise at a time. She was too busy feeling alive for the first time in 7 years. She had no idea she'd just traded one cage for another. Or that this cage came with a man who didn't believe in doors. Let me take you back to where it started. Not the kiss, that was just the trigger. The real beginning was 3 hours earlier, in a divorce attorney's office that smelled like leather and broken promises. I sign my name for the last time as Diana Park Hayes. Tomorrow, I'll just be Diana Hayes again. The woman I was before I met Marcus. Before I learned that love could be a slow suffocation disguised as partnership. My hand doesn't shake. I thought it would. 7 years of marriage, gone with a signature and a notary's stamp. Congratulations, my attorney says, but her eyes say something else. Something like pity. I don't want pity. I want to feel something other than numb. Diana's best friend, Raina Martinez, was waiting in the lobby with a bottle of champagne poorly concealed in a designer tote bag. Raina, who'd never liked Marcus, who'd warned Diana that a man who needed to control your wardrobe would eventually try to control your breath. We're celebrating, Raina announced, popping the cork right there in the marble lobby, making the receptionist flinch. And I know exactly where we're going. Club Vermilion sat in the heart of Koreatown like a dark jewel. The kind of place Diana would never have entered when she was married. Marcus preferred wine bars with string quartets, places where everyone spoke in hushed tones about stock portfolios and vacation homes. This place pulsed. Red neon bled across black marble. The bass line felt like a second heartbeat. This is insane, I tell Raina, but I'm already moving through the crowd, already feeling the music replace the silence I've been living in. We find a booth. Raina orders bottle service, something expensive and Russian that tastes like poor decisions. I drink it anyway. I drink until the edges of the world soften, until I stop thinking about the empty apartment waiting for me, until I remember what it feels like to exist without permission. That's when Raina leans in, her eyes bright with tequila and mischief. Truth or dare? I laugh. We haven't played this game since college. We're not 21 anymore. Exactly. Which means the stakes are higher. She grins. Truth or dare, Diana? I should say truth. Truth is safe. But I'm done with safe. Dare. Raina's eyes scan the club, hunting. Then they stop, widening slightly. Oh, this is perfect. You see that guy? Corner booth, VIP section. The one who looks like he's calculating murder rates instead of enjoying the music. I follow her gaze. And I see him. Minute Jun-ho sat in the shadows like he owned them. And in a way, he did. The VIP section wasn't just roped off, it was guarded by 2 men who looked like they bench-pressed motorcycles for warm-up. Jun-ho himself was all sharp angles and controlled stillness. His suit probably cost more than Diana's monthly rent. The tattoos crawling up his neck disappeared beneath a collar that somehow made him look more dangerous, not less. He was beautiful the way a blade is beautiful. Precise. Deadly. Mesmerizing. I dare you to kiss him. Diana would later wonder if Raina somehow knew. If her friend had recognized the predator in the corner and decided to throw her best friend directly into his path. But in that moment, drunk on freedom and champagne, Diana only felt one thing: the wild, reckless need to prove she was still alive. My legs carry me across the club before my brain can veto the decision. The bass thrums through my heels, up my spine, matching the adrenaline spiking through my bloodstream. The security guard steps forward, a wall of muscle and menace. But something makes him pause. Maybe the champagne confidence radiating off me. Maybe the way I walk like I have every right to be here. Or maybe Junho signals him to let me through. I'll never know. Junho watched her approach with the focus of a man who trained himself to read threats in crowded rooms. This woman, mid-30s, curves poured into a black dress that suggested she'd recently stopped caring about other people's opinions. Natural hair falling in waves that caught the red light wasn't on his radar. That made her dangerous in a completely different way. His lieutenant, Kang Dae-jung, moved to intercept, but Junho raised one finger. Wait. His more devastating up close. Sharp jaw, dark eyes that seem to see through skin and bone straight to the parts of myself I keep hidden. There's something about his stillness that makes the rest of the room feel chaotic. I need to borrow you for 5 seconds, I say, my voice steadier than it should be. One eyebrow lifts. Barely. 4. A dare. A dare. He tastes the word like it's something foreign. Amusing. His accent is slight, American educated but with Korean edges that sharpen certain consonants. I don't ask permission. I lean down, my hand finding the expensive fabric of his jacket for balance, and I kiss him. The club didn't stop. The music kept pounding. People kept dancing. But in the small universe of that VIP booth, time bent. Diana tasted champagne and desperation and something that felt like freedom. Junho tasted like expensive scotch and danger and decisions that couldn't be unmade. She meant it to be quick. 3 seconds, maybe 4. But his hand came up not to push her away, to cup the back of her neck, fingers threading through her hair, and suddenly 5 seconds became eternal. When I pull back, my heart is hammering against my ribs like it's trying to escape. His eyes have gone dark, focused, like I've just become the most interesting problem he's encountered all year. Your friends dare you to kiss random men often? His voice is low, controlled, but there's something underneath it. Something that sounds like curiosity mixed with calculation. Only the ones who look like they need to remember how to smile. That earns me something that might be amusement. Dangerous assumption. Why? His thumb brushes my jawline. Gentle. Possessive. Because some men forgot how to smile for very specific reasons. One of his security team leans in, whispers something in rapid Korean. Junho's expression doesn't change, but his hand drops from my face. Go back to your friend, he says. Not unkind. Just, final. And Diana. My stomach drops. How do you know my... Your ID is visible in your purse. He gestures to my clutch, where my newly reissued driver's license, Diana Hayes, not Diana Park Hayes, is indeed partially visible. Be more careful. The wrong person could learn too much. Diana should have recognized the warning for what it was. Should have understood that a man who notices partially visible IDs in dim lighting is a man who's trained to gather information the way sharks are trained to scent blood. But she was still high on the kiss, still feeling the ghost of his fingers in her hair, still tasting scotch and poor decisions. Diana Hayes had built her career on making scandals disappear. As a crisis management consultant for Apex Strategies, she'd cleaned up everything from CEO embezzlement to political sex scandals. She was good at her job. Frighteningly good. Monday morning arrived with sunshine that felt personally offensive and a hangover that suggested she'd made terrible choices. She remembered the kiss. Remembered dark eyes and a warning she'd ignored. What she didn't remember was giving him her real name. My office is on the 14th floor of a downtown high-rise that smells like expensive coffee and corporate secrets. I've been here 6 years, building a reputation as the woman who can spin any disaster into a redemption story. Today, I have 3 client meetings scheduled. Standard crisis mitigation, a tech startup whose founder tweeted something racist, an actress caught in a revenge porn situation, and a pharmaceutical company whose drug just got linked to 12 deaths. What I don't have scheduled is the man sitting in our lobby. Jun-ho looked different in daylight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. No less dangerous, if anything, more so, because the polished veneer of legitimate businessman made the violence underneath more jarring. He stood when Diana entered, and her stomach dropped like she'd missed a step on stairs. Miss Hayes. I was hoping we could talk. Her boss, Sandra Chen, appeared from her office with the kind of smile reserved for clients with 8-figure retainers. Diana, perfect timing. This is Minute Jun-ho. He's interested in acquiring our services. Every instinct screams danger. But I'm a professional. I extend my hand. Mr. Minute, interesting coincidence. His handshake is firm, brief. I don't believe in coincidences. Of course he doesn't. Sandra ushers us into the main conference room, oblivious to the fact that I kissed this man 60 hours ago in a nightclub. Or maybe she knows. Maybe everyone knows. Maybe this is some elaborate humiliation I haven't pieced together yet. Mr. Minute is expanding his business operations, Sandra explains, pouring water into crystal glasses like we're conducting normal business. He needs a comprehensive reputation management strategy. Image cultivation, media relations, the works. What Sandra didn't say, what she couldn't say, was that Minute Jun-ho represented the Baekdu faction of the Korean organized crime network in Los Angeles. That his business operations included everything from high-end gambling to strategic extortion. That the FBI had 3 active investigations running on his operations, none of which had produced enough evidence to secure an indictment. That he was, by every measurable standard, untouchable. I need someone who understands nuance, he said, his eyes never leaving Diana's face. Someone who can take complicated situations and present them in more digestible format. We specialize in crisis management, Mr. Minute. Not. I pause, choosing words carefully. Preemptive reputation construction. Then perhaps it's time to expand your services. He slides a folder across the table. I'm prepared to offer a significant retainer. 7 figures, annually. And I'm happy to pay for exclusivity. 7 figures. I could pay off my divorce settlement. Buy a house. Never worry about money again. I open the folder. Inside are news clippings. A warehouse fire in K-Town. 12 dead. Cause of fire, under investigation. Then photographs of the same warehouse, before the fire. People working, smiling, unaware they have hours left to live. My hands steady, but my pulse spikes. This seems like a job for a lawyer, not a PR consultant. Lawyers manage legal consequences. His voice is silk over steel. You manage perception. I need people to see me as a legitimate businessman, not a, he pauses. Misunderstood entrepreneur. Sandra practically glowed with greed. This was the kind of client that made careers, the kind of money that turned boutique firms into industry leaders. But Diana saw something else in those photographs. She saw bodies. She saw a man willing to burn 12 people alive to make a point. And she saw the trap closing around her before she understood how it had been set. Diana had 2 choices, walk away from blood money and keep her conscience clean, or step into darkness and see how far she'd go to survive. But Jun-ho hadn't offered her a choice. He'd offered her an inevitability. And the truly terrifying part? A small, buried part of her wanted to say yes. I need to think about it, I say, closing the folder before Sandra can see exactly what we're being asked to sanitize. Jun-ho's smile doesn't reach his eyes. Of course. It takes 24 hours. I'm a patient man. The way he says it suggests patience is a weapon he's perfected. After he leaves, his two shadows following like loyal dogs, Sandra turns to me with the kind of hunger that makes my skin crawl. 7 figures, Diana. Do you understand what that means for us? I understand exactly what it means. It means we're about to become complicit in something that will hollow out whatever integrity we have left. Diana spent that afternoon pretending to work while actually researching Minute Jun-ho. What she found made her blood run cold. The Baekdu faction controlled most of K-Town's underground economy. Gambling, protection, loan sharking, even human trafficking if the rumors were true. Jun-ho had taken control 5 years ago after his predecessor died in what police ruled a suicide, despite the fact that he'd shot himself 3 times in the back of the head. Since Jun-ho's rise, the violence had become more strategic. Fewer bodies, but when bodies appeared, they sent messages. The warehouse fire wasn't an accident. It was a declaration. And now he wanted Diana to make him look like a philanthropist. I'm still at my desk at 9 p.m. when my phone buzzes. Unknown number. You're working late. Jun-ho's voice, unmistakable. How did you get my personal number? The same way I got your address, your divorce records, your credit score, and the name of the cafe where you buy overpriced lattes every morning. A pause. I'm thorough. My apartment suddenly feels less safe. That's called stalking. That's called due diligence. I don't do business with people I don't understand. Diana looked out her office window at the city lights spreading below like fallen stars. Somewhere down there, Jun-ho was watching, waiting, calculating his next move. I know you're going to refuse my offer, Diana. You're going to cite ethics, legality, personal safety. You're going to tell yourself you're not that person. That you draw lines. You're right. I am going to refuse. Which is why I'm calling. To show you why you won't. My email notification chimes. A new message from an encrypted address. I open it. The air leaves my lungs. The email contained audio files. Recordings of Diana's conversations with past clients. Conversations where she'd explicitly helped them obstruct justice, destroy evidence, fabricate alibis. 6 years of career-ending, potentially criminal activity, all time-stamped and documented. The difference between you and me, Diana, is honesty. I know what I am. You've been pretending you're different from your clients, better somehow. But we both clean up blood. You just use prettier words. You're blackmailing me. I'm offering you a job. The blackmail is just incentive to accept. His voice softens, becomes almost gentle. 24 hours. Think carefully about which version of yourself you want to be. The one who judges from a distance, or the one who admits she's been part of the system all along. He hangs up. I sit in the dark of my office and realize he's right. Every client I've helped, every scandal I've buried, every time I told myself I was just doing my job, I've been building a house of cards made from other people's sins. And Jun-ho just showed me his holding a match. That night, Diana didn't sleep. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the kiss that had started this nightmare. Except it wasn't a nightmare, was it? It was a reckoning. Jun-ho hadn't created her complicity. He'd just dragged it into the light and asked her to own it. Diana showed up at Jun-ho's legitimate business office at precisely 9 a.m. The headquarters of Baekdu Holdings occupied the top 3 floors of a Century City tower. Glass and steel and money that had been laundered so thoroughly it smelled clean. The receptionist, a young Korean woman with perfect posture and eyes that missed nothing, smiled politely. "Miss Hayes. He's expecting you." Of course he was. His office is minimalist. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Los Angeles, a desk that looks like it cost more than my car, and art on the walls, traditional Korean pieces, museum quality. Jun-ho stands at the window, hands in his pockets, looking like a GQ cover instead of a crime lord. "You're early," he says without turning. I don't like prolonging the inevitable. Now he turns. In daylight, I can see details I missed in the club. A small scar through his left eyebrow. The way his suits are tailored to allow for shoulder holsters. The absolute absence of anything personal in this space, no photos, no mementos, nothing that suggests he has a life outside of business. "You're accepting." It's not a question, but I answer anyway. "On conditions." "You're not in a position to negotiate." "Then you don't understand how this works." I set my bag down, crossing my arms. "If I'm going to rebuild your image, I need complete transparency. I can't spin what I don't understand. That means access to your operations, your people, your actual business model." Something like respect flickered across Jun-ho's face. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Sit." Diana Saturday. Jun-ho opened a drawer, pulled out a thick file, and slid it across the polished surface. Background on Baekdu Holdings. Organizational structure, revenue streams, key personnel. Everything you need to build a narrative. Diana opened it. The first page outlined legitimate businesses, real estate development, import-export, restaurants, consulting services. The second page showed the money flowing beneath the surface. Protection rackets generate 17 million annually. High-stakes gambling bringing in 23 million. Loan sharking at interest rates that would make payday lenders blush, 38 million. Human trafficking, redacted. The redacted sections, I say, my voice carefully neutral, are non-negotiable. His eyes are flat. Some parts of my operation you don't need to understand. For your safety. Or yours. Both. I should walk out. This is the moment. This is where any decent person would refuse, would rather face legal consequences than become complicit in whatever those redacted lines contain. But I think about the recordings. I think about my career in ashes, my reputation destroyed, possibly facing criminal charges for obstruction of justice. And deeper, darker, I think about how tired I am of pretending to be clean while swimming in filth. Fine, I hear myself say. I'll need an office here. Full access to your PR team, if you have one. And I want Kang Daejung assigned as my liaison. Jun-ho's lieutenant, who'd been standing silently near the door, stiffened slightly. Why Daejung? Because he's your second. If I'm going to understand how this organization actually functions, I need someone with real authority, not a babysitter you assign to keep me contained. Jun-ho studied me for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. A real smile this time, one that reached his eyes and made him look younger, almost human. You're going to be either incredibly useful or incredibly dangerous. Why not both? He laughed. Actually, I laughed. The sound filled the office like something rare and precious. Welcome to Baekdu Holdings, Miss Hayes. Daejung will show you to your new office. We'll have dinner tonight to discuss strategy. 8 p.m. I'll send a car. Diana stood, gathering the file. I can drive myself. That wasn't a request. Their eyes locked. This was the dance, Diana realized. Push and pull. Boundaries tested and either reinforced or demolished. 8 p.m., she conceded. As she walked out, she felt his gaze on her back. Heavy. Weighted. Possessive. She'd just sold her soul. The terrifying part was how little she'd hesitated. Diana spent the day crafting a preliminary strategy: community engagement, philanthropic partnerships, media appearances that would position Jun-ho as a misunderstood entrepreneur fighting stereotypes. Standard playbook. But as 8 p.m. approached, as she changed into a dress that walked the line between professional and provocative, she realized this dinner wasn't about strategy. It was about establishing what kind of relationship they were actually building. The car that arrived for Diana was a black Mercedes, bulletproof if she had to guess, driven by one of Jun-ho's security team. They drove in silence through evening traffic, leaving downtown and heading into the hills. The restaurant was Nakwon, a Korean fine dining establishment that didn't have a website or take reservations from the public. The kind of place where politicians and celebrities dined in private rooms, where NDAs were signed along with the check. Jun-ho is already seated in a private room when I arrive. Traditional Korean decor, low table, floor seating on cushions. He removed his jacket, rolled his sleeves to reveal forearms roped with muscle and more tattoos, traditional Korean designs mixed with something that might be Chinese characters. The menu here is fixed, he says as I settle across from him. The chef prepares what's fresh. I hope you're not vegetarian. I'm not. A server appears with banchan, small dishes of kimchi, pickled vegetables, seasoned bean sprouts. Then the main courses begin arriving. Galbei is so tender it falls off the bone. Hemul pajeon with seafood that tastes like the ocean. Soju poured into small ceramic cups. They ate in surprisingly comfortable silence at first. Jun-ho explained the dishes, the regional variations, the family recipes some of these were based on. He talked about food the way some men talked about cars or weapons, with knowledge and appreciation that suggested this was something important to him. Diana watched him, trying to reconcile the man who explained the difference between gokyugaru and gochujang with the man who'd burned 12 people alive. You're wondering how I can enjoy something this beautiful while running an organization built on violence. Are you a mind reader now too? Your face is expressive. It's one of your weaknesses. I take a sip of soju, welcoming the burn. And my strengths. He refills my cup with the traditional two-handed pour, respectful. You're smart enough to know when you're beaten, but proud enough to negotiate terms. You understand that morality is contextual. And you kissed me like you were trying to prove something to yourself. Diana's pulse kicked up. They were veering into dangerous territory, the space between professional and personal blurring like watercolors in rain. That was a dare. A stupid, drunken dare. Was it? Jun-ho sets down his cup, his full attention focused on me in a way that makes my skin heat. Or was it the first honest thing you'd done in years? The air between them thickened. Diana felt it, that pull, that magnetic attraction to something dangerous and wrong and thrilling. Why me? The question escapes before I can stop it. You could hire any PR firm in Los Angeles. Why track me down specifically? Because you walked up to a man you didn't know, in a club you didn't belong in, and you took what you wanted without asking permission. That kind of instinct can't be taught. He leaned forward. And because when I researched you, when I read about the cases you've handled, the lines you've crossed, the lies you've perfected, I recognized someone like me. Someone who understands that the world isn't divided into good and evil. It's divided into people who admit what they are and people who pretend. That's a convenient philosophy for a criminal. And for a woman who's built a career making criminals look like victims. He's right. God help me, he's right. Jun-ho stood, offering his hand to help Diana up from the floor cushion. She took it, And he didn't let go immediately. Instead, he pulled her closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive and uniquely him. I'm not going to apologize for what I am, Diana. And I'm not going to let you apologize for what you are either. We're both predators. The only question is whether we're hunting together or hunting each other. And if I choose the latter, his thumb brushes across my knuckles, then it's going to be the most exhilarating game either of us has ever played. He releases my hand, steps back, the moment breaking like a spell. I'll have my driver take you home. Tomorrow, we start building my empire's new face. And Diana. He catches my eyes. Thank you for saying yes. Even if you had no choice, I'm glad it was you. Diana returned to her empty apartment with her mind racing and her skin still tingling from Junho's touch. She was crossing lines she'd sworn she never would. But the most terrifying realization wasn't that she was falling into darkness, it was that part of her had been waiting for permission to stop pretending she belonged in the light. 2 weeks into her role at Baekdu Holdings, Diana had orchestrated 3 charity events, secured a favorable profile in the LA Times business section, and gotten Junho invited to speak at a USC entrepreneurship panel. She was good at this. Disturbingly good. She'd also started staying later at the office, often finding herself working alongside Junho as he managed his legitimate and illegitimate operations with equal precision. Tonight was different. I'm reviewing media talking points when I hear shouting from Junho's office. Korean, rapid fire, getting louder. Then a sound I recognize from movies but have never heard in person, a gunshot. My body freezes. Every instinct screams to run, to hide, to get as far from this building as possible. Instead, I move toward the sound. Junho's office door was open. Inside, a man knelt on the marble floor, blood pooling beneath him from a shoulder wound. Junho stood over him, gun still in hand, his expression carved from ice. Taehyun and 2 other security members flanked the room. And Junho's eyes lifted to find Diana standing in the doorway. Get her out of here. No. My voice sounds steadier than I feel. If I'm part of this organization, I need to understand all of it. Junho studied her for a long moment. The man bleeding on his floor whimpered something in Korean. Junho responded without looking at him, his tone flat, final. Then to Diana, this man embezzled $400,000 from our gambling operations. He thought I wouldn't notice. He was wrong. The man is younger than I expected. Maybe 30. Terrified. Blood spreads across expensive marble like spilled wine. You shot him. I shot him somewhere non-lethal. A courtesy, considering. Junho's voice is business casual, like we're discussing quarterly earnings. He has 2 choices, return the money plus interest, or I shoot him somewhere more permanent. Diana should be horrified. Should be calling the police, running, doing anything except standing here calculating how this situation could be managed, controlled, buried. Instead, she heard herself asking, how much time does he have to return it? Junho's expression shifted. Surprise, perhaps. Or something darker. Approval. 48 hours. I look at the bleeding man. Can you get the money? He nods frantically, gasping something in Korean. Then you should start making calls. I keep my voice level. Professional. And you'll need medical attention. Taehyun, is there a doctor on retainer? Taehyun glanced at Junho, who nodded almost imperceptibly. There is. I'll make the call. The bleeding man was escorted out, leaving Diana and Junho alone in an office that smelled like gunpowder and copper. You didn't run. Would you have let me? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. No. But I'm impressed you didn't try. He moved to a bar cart, poured 2 glasses of whiskey, and handed me one. Our fingers brushed. The touch felt electric, dangerous. You're adapting faster than I expected. Is that good or bad? Depends on whether you're adapting out of fear or acceptance. I drained the whiskey in one swallow, welcoming the burn. What if it's both? Jun-ho stepped closer, close enough that Diana had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. His hand came up, fingers threading through her hair the way they had during that first kiss. I've been trying to give you space. Time to adjust. But Diana, his voice dropped lower, intimate. I've been patient long enough. Patient for what? Instead of answering, he kissed me. Not like the club. Not tentative or exploratory. This kiss was claim and question and demand all at once. Diana's back hit the wall, Jun-ho's body pressed against hers, and she tasted whiskey and danger and the complete dissolution of every boundary she'd tried to maintain. Her hands fisted in his shirt. She kissed him back with equal hunger, equal desperation, 7 years of repression and 1 month of tension finally breaking open. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jun-ho's forehead rested against hers. Tell me to stop. I should. This is crossing the last line. This is the point of no return. No. What happened next in Jun-ho's office wasn't gentle. It wasn't romantic. It was two people who'd been circling each other for weeks finally admitting what they both wanted. And when Diana left that office hours later, clothes rumpled and skin marked with evidence of what they'd done, she knew she'd just become something she'd sworn she'd never be. Not just an employee. Not just complicit. But his. I didn't go home that night. Jun-ho's penthouse is in a building that Baekdu Holdings owns, which means it's secure in ways my apartment could never be. Cameras, armed guards, bulletproof glass that overlooks the city like we're gods looking down on mortals. His bedroom is minimalist like his office. Black silk sheets, ambient lighting, art that probably costs more than most people's houses. But there are small details I notice in the morning light, a photograph of an older woman on the nightstand, traditional Korean dress, and kind eyes. His mother, maybe. Books in Korean and English stacked on a chair. A meditation cushion in the corner. His human. Despite everything, his human. Jun-ho woke before Diana, watching her sleep in the early morning light. She looked younger like this, vulnerable in ways she never allowed when conscious. He traced the curve of her shoulder with one finger, careful not to wake her, and wondered when exactly he'd stopped seeing her as a tool and started seeing her as something far more dangerous. An equal. A partner. Someone who looked at blood on marble and didn't flinch. Someone who might actually understand him. I wake to find him watching me, his expression unguarded in a way I've never seen. How long have you been awake? My voice is rough from sleep and other things. Long enough. He brushes hair from my face. We need to talk about what this is. My stomach tightens. Does it need to be anything? Yes. No hesitation. Because people in my organization need to understand that you're not just a consultant anymore. And people outside my organization need to understand that touching you means going through me. Diana sat up, pulling the sheet around herself, suddenly aware of how exposed she was. Not physically, they'd crossed that bridge thoroughly, but emotionally. I'm not some possession you can claim. I know. His hand finds mine. But in my world, perception is protection. If people think you're mine, they won't try to use you against me. And they won't try to hurt you by sending me a message. The words should feel like ownership. Instead, they felt like something else. Care, maybe. As twisted as it was coming from a man who'd shot someone in his office less than 12 hours ago. And what am I supposed to tell people? That I'm sleeping with my client. That I'm in a relationship with a crime lord. You tell them whatever makes you comfortable. He pulls me closer, his thumb tracing patterns on my wrist. But understand something, Diana. What happened last night wasn't casual for me. I don't do it casually. When I commit to something, I commit completely. The intensity in his eyes makes my breath catch. This man, who controls millions in illegal operations, who's killed people, who operates in shadows, is offering me something that looks disturbingly like devotion. This is insane. Probably. A small smile. But you're still here. He's right. I'm still here. In his bed, in his life, in his world. And the most terrifying part is that I don't want to leave. Diana's phone buzzed from the nightstand. A text from Raina. Asterisk girl, where are you? You missed our coffee date. Call me. Asterisk. Reality crashed back. She had a life outside this penthouse. Friends who didn't know what she'd become. A reputation that was currently being shredded with every choice she made. I need to go. I have what? A life to pretend is still normal. You have a lunch meeting with the Korean American Business Coalition at 1 p.m. Jun-ho's already dressed, buttoning a fresh shirt like we're discussing calendar appointments. I had Daejung reschedule your morning. And Diana. He leans down, kissing me once, soft and possessive. Tonight, we're attending a fundraiser together. The mayor will be there. Consider it our public debut. 6 weeks ago, Diana Hayes had walked into a club and kissed a stranger on a dare. Now she was waking up in his bed, planning public appearances, becoming exactly what she'd spent her career helping others hide. The woman in Jun-ho's bathroom mirror looked the same. Same face, same eyes, same skin marked with evidence of the night before. But something fundamental had shifted. She wasn't pretending anymore. She wasn't the woman who'd signed divorce papers dreaming of freedom. She was the woman who'd looked at blood and calculated damage control instead of calling the police. The woman who'd kissed a monster and discovered she liked the taste. I get dressed in last night's clothes, Jun-ho's driver will take me home to change, and I catch him watching me from the bedroom doorway. Regrets, he asks. I should lie. Should tell him this was a mistake, that we need to maintain professional boundaries, that I'm not the person who does this. But I'm done lying. To him. To myself. Not yet. His smile is slow, dangerous, and promising. Good. Because we're just getting started. The fundraiser that night was held at the Getty Center, all old money and political influence and people who'd perfected the art of looking clean while building empires on exploitation. Diana had attended dozens of these events for clients. She'd never attended one as someone's, what? Girlfriend. Partner. The woman who'd crossed every line she'd ever drawn. As Diana prepared for the evening, selecting a dress that walked the line between professional and provocative, she didn't realize that tonight would be the night everything she'd built with Jun-ho would be tested. Because in the shadows of the Getty's pristine galleries, someone was watching. Someone who'd been waiting for Jun-ho to show weakness. And Diana Hayes, the crisis management consultant who'd become a crime lord's lover, was about to become the perfect target. The Getty Center glowed like a fortress of culture and wealth, perched in the hills overlooking Los Angeles. Tonight's fundraiser benefited arts education in underserved communities, the kind of cause that let rich people feel virtuous while networking with other rich people. Jun-ho's car pulled up to the valet stand. Diana stepped out in a black silk gown that hugged every curve, her natural hair styled in elegant waves. Diamond earrings, a gift from Jun-ho that had arrived that afternoon, caught the light. Jun-ho takes my hand as we walk toward the entrance, and I feel eyes tracking us. Curiosity, judgment, calculation. This is Los Angeles. Everyone's always calculating. Smile, he murmurs. You're supposed to be enjoying yourself. I'm working. So am I. But I'm better at pretending. His thumb brushes my knuckles. Relax, Diana. We're just two people attending a charity function. Two people. One of whom runs a criminal empire, the other who's becoming complicit in it one event at a time. Inside, the great hall was filled with La's power elite. Diana recognized a city councilman, two superior court judges, the CEO of a major entertainment conglomerate, and at least 3 faces from Forbes' billionaire list. Jun-ho moved through the crowd with practiced ease, introducing Diana as his strategic communications consultant, a technically accurate title that hid everything important. I'm networking with a gallery owner when I feel it, the prickling awareness of being watched. Not the ambient observation of a crowded room, but focused attention. Predatory. I scan the crowd and find him. Mid-40s, expensive suit, Korean, flanked by 2 men who have the same controlled stillness as Jun-ho's security. He's staring at Jun-ho with an expression that mixes hatred and satisfaction. I touch Jun-ho's arm. 10 o'clock. Who is he? Jun-ho's entire demeanor shifted. The pleasant mask he wore for public events hardened into something far more dangerous. Park Jin-suk. He runs the Joomgang faction. We've been at war for territory for the past 2 years. His hand tightened on Diana's waist. He shouldn't be here. This fundraiser is neutral ground. Maybe he's trying to change that. Jin-suk started walking toward us, his smile sharp enough to cut. Jun-ho positioned himself slightly in front of me, subtle, but protective. The 2 men faced each other in the middle of the Getty's Great Hall, surrounded by oblivious socialites who had no idea they were witnessing a confrontation between 2 of La's most dangerous crime lords. Jun-ho, I heard you were bringing a date. I had to see for myself. His eyes slid to Diana, assessing. She's beautiful. Very American. Not like the women you usually keep company with. Diana, this is Park Jin-suk. A competitor in several business sectors. Jin-suk, Diana Hayes. My partner. The word partner carried weight. It wasn't just professional. It was a declaration. Jin-suk's smile widened, but his eyes stayed cold. Partner. How modern. Tell me, Miss Hayes, does your partnership extend to all aspects of Jun-ho's business? Or just the parts that look good in the media? It was a trap, elegantly laid. If Diana claimed ignorance, she looked naive. If she admitted knowledge, she became complicit in front of witnesses. Mr. Park, I'm a crisis management consultant. I don't concern myself with business operations. I concern myself with how those operations are perceived. I meet his eyes. And right now, I'm perceiving that you're trying to create a crisis where none exists. At a charity event. In front of the mayor and several judges. Which suggests either extraordinary courage or remarkably poor judgment. Jin-suk's expression flickered. He hadn't expected her to engage, much less push back. Smart and beautiful. I can see why you're attached, Jun-ho. But attachment is dangerous in our world. It creates. He paused. Vulnerabilities. Is that a threat? An observation? After all, terrible things happen in this city. Accidents. Random violence. It would be tragic if someone you cared about was in the wrong place at the wrong time. The air between the 3 of them crystallized, sharp enough to draw blood. Diana felt Jun-ho's hand on her waist tense, his entire body coiling like a spring. Before Jun-ho can respond, before this situation escalates into something that can't be walked back, I step forward. Mr. Park, I think you're making a mistake. You're assuming that threatening me will give you leverage over Jun-ho. But what you've actually done has given me a professional interest in your destruction. I keep my voice pleasant, conversational. I'm very good at my job. Ask anyone who's tried to cross my clients. They usually end up resigning in disgrace or under federal investigation. And the beautiful thing about my work, it's all completely legal. Jin-suk stared at her, reassessing. Jun-ho's hand relaxed slightly on her waist, and she felt something that might have been pride radiating from him. You have no idea what you've walked into, little girl. I know exactly what I've walked into. The question is whether you know what you've started. Jin-suk's jaw tightened. Then he smiled, sharp, cold, full of promises. Enjoy the evening. Both of you. He walked away, his security following. Jun-ho pulled Diana toward a quieter corner, near a gallery of impressionist paintings. That was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. You keep saying that to me. Maybe I'm both. He laughed, low and genuine. Then his expression sobered. Jin-suk doesn't make empty threats, Diana. What he said about accidents, he means it. You just made yourself a target. I was already a target the moment I walked into your world. I touch his face, feeling the tension in his jaw. So we adapt. We prepare. We make sure that if he comes for me, he regrets it. Jun-ho kissed her then, in the Getty Center, in front of judges and politicians and the mayor himself. It wasn't appropriate. It wasn't professional. It was a statement. When they broke apart, Diana saw Jin-suk watching from across the room, his expression promising violence. We should leave. Not yet. Jun-ho's arm wrapped around my waist, possessive. We're going to finish this event. We're going to smile and network and show Jin-suk that his threats mean nothing. And tomorrow, his voice dropped. Tomorrow, we go to war. Diana Hayes had walked into a nightclub 6 weeks ago and kissed a stranger on a dare. That kiss had cost her everything, her illusions, her boundaries, her carefully constructed life. But it had also given her something she hadn't expected. Purpose. Partnership. A man who looked at her like she was both a weapon and treasure. And now, standing in the Getty Center with a target on her back and Jun-ho's arm around her waist, Diana realized something that should have terrified her. She wasn't afraid of the war coming. She was ready for it. So there you have it, love. Diana Hayes thought she was celebrating freedom when she walked into Club Vermilion. Instead, she found a different kind of cage, one she walked into willingly, with eyes wide open. Minute Jun-ho, the Korean mafia boss who turned a 5-second kiss into an empire's weakness and its greatest strength. And now they're both marked. Both targets. Both committed to a partnership that violates every rule Diana once believed in. The question isn't whether she'll survive Jun-ho's world. It's whether she'll remain herself when she does. If you want to know what happens when Park Jin-suk makes good on his threats, when Diana has to choose between her last shred of morality and the man she's falling for, when blood spills on more than just expensive marble, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment telling me, would you have kissed the stranger? Would you have said yes to the deal? Until next time, my fierce hearts. Stay dangerous.